In this video, I'm going to explain to you a few ways that you can increase your damage output with necromancy, but also throw in a few other quality of life combat tips, I suppose, with necromancy as well, things that you'll put into practice and you'll be very glad that you did. There's not much else to say about the intro to this, so let's just get started. Number 1 comes with the Threads of Fate buff, and this is the main thing about the title, right, that makes necromancy do so much damage, is the way that Threads of Fate works is it applies the buff to your own character. It doesn't apply it to a target, it's you that has the buff, right? So you're going to do massive AoE for the duration of that buff. That being said, because the duration is now 6.6 seconds, you can move to different crowds of NPCs or different like groups of mobs, like in elite dungeons or just anywhere, as you can see on screen, and pass the AoE on. Like you can use an ability at one group of trash mobs and then surge and then use the next ability at the next one and do really good AoE clear. This works great at Zook, it works great at like the Kiln and stuff, it works great in elite dungeons. It's just really good, and I'm sure in the future at some point there's probably going to be a reason for us to use this. Maybe the next boss, for example, we'll have to see. But do keep in mind that if you have cleared off a full group of enemies with Threads of Fate, you can surge or bladed dive to the next lot and then just cast abilities there too, as long as you still have that buff. You have to be pretty quick, but it is definitely something to keep in mind. It is huge. So number 2, the Death Grip weapon spec, which is the regular tier 70, 80 or 90 weapon that you get with necromancy. One, you want to put in the Essence of Finality once you reach a tier 95 gear, of course. Put the tier 70 version in, it's cheaper and it does the exact same thing. But that isn't the tip. The tip is that this is actually a stun as well. So with the Death Grip weapon, you can stun your target and do a ton of damage as well, because this weapon spec is absolutely insane. But you can pretty much like, you can perm stun an enemy for so freaking long with this and using the Soul Strike ability. If you have some soul stacks up, say 3+ or something like that, or just even 1+, it doesn't matter, it depends how long you want to stun the target for, you can use Soul Strike every single cooldown, as well as using your Death Grip weapon special attack, and you can just keep a target stunned for the longest amount of time. The best example of use that I would probably have for this is at Telos, where you want to have him stun locked for maybe like phase 4, or even the last phase in the Law and Rage, and you can just keep him stunned for so long but still put out good damage. It's pretty impressive. It is really good, and it's something to keep in mind. So keep in mind that when you are using the weapon special attack for the tier 70, 80 or 90 weapon, the Death Grip spec, that it also applies a stun as well as does a ton of damage. Number 3, this was one I was very, very wrong about in the past, and I apologize, but you guys corrected me big time, so thank you. It's good, to be honest. It's nice to have people be able to come into the comments and say, you are wrong in it. You are completely wrong. And in fact, when you guys corrected me on this, it wasn't even toxic in any way. You guys were just like, nope, you're wrong. You're misunderstanding. Anyway, the Ghost Command ability, the Ghost Conjure itself. I thought at first that this was a very small duration thing, as it does say that in the tooltip, but it's not actually that. It's how long it, applies the actual buff for, but it gets reapplied over and over again, and I thought it cost way too much adrenaline for what it did. But the Command Ghost special attack increases your attacks and all incoming damage to the target that it puts the debuff on of up to double damage. However, this is capped at 35% bonus ability damage, which does sound like a small cap, right? But if you keep in mind, this increases the damage from all sources, including your extra conjures like your skeleton as well, along with split soul as well, any weapon poisons, anything that damages the target during this duration is going to be increased by that much of that cap. Now, where I went wrong is I misread it. It says applied Haunted to the target with each attack for 4.2 seconds. I thought this meant that it lasts for 4.2 seconds, but it doesn't. It reapplies the Haunted buff all the time for the full duration of the ghost, as in you only have to use this once per life cycle of the ghost. You don't have to use it again. So 70% adrenaline for the full duration of your actual ghost conjure, and you're going to be increasing damage to all targets because it will change to the target that you're attacking by up to 35% bonus ability damage on every single hit of incoming damage that it takes. This is crazy. This is a lot of damage and is definitely worth the adrenaline cost if you are going to recast it in a fight. But of course, you can precast this as well, or cast it with no target, and it still works just the same. So make sure you cast that before a fight for 0% adrenaline cost, and then it is definitely still worth reusing in a fight as well, so long as the fight's going to be long enough, like Carapac hard mode. Just a friendly reminder to check that you are subscribed to the channel if you found anything useful in this video, or maybe you thought you were subbed but you're not, but there's over 55% of you guys that do watch the content that aren't currently subbed, so check it out. Anyway, 11 seconds stolen, let's get back to the video. Recently, the bloat ability got a buff because it was just a little bit too weak. People avoided it because it cost 20% adrenaline still, and it kind of did the damage too slow. However, now they've changed it so that the bloat ability's damage intervals, or the tick rate that the damage goes through, it's actually a lot quicker now, which is important because combining this with Split Soul now is a really good extra way to put out some damage. Using the bloat ability will add a damage over time effect to your target, which then spreads to anything else in the area if you do kill it on time. It's not really the important bit of it though, in my opinion right now, unless there's a specific use for it in game. But overall, if you use this ability with the Split Soul, it is going to throw out a ton of damage along with the Split Soul stacks. That being said, this ability itself is really strong too. It hits pretty hard on its first hit, and then it deals 25% of the initial hit over 10 hits. The total damage you get from this, along with the Split Soul, is incredible, and it is definitely worth the 20% adrenaline. The only thing that I'm unsure about, and people can probably let us know and confirm in the comments for you pro PVMers out there, is it worth using this in living death rotation or not? I'm going to go with no, because the adrenaline cost and then matching it up with the death skulls and stuff. So maybe before you do living death, but then that's 20% adrenaline. I don't know. Where does it fit? I use it carry back hard mode when living death is just down, and that's last Split Soul. So, you know, it has uses outside of that. But if you're in, like, say, Racial, I guess you maybe just don't use it. I don't know. Let me know. This next one I can't take credit for because Jer, you're the one that gave me this, so thank you very much, bro. I appreciate it a ton, and it's really good. It is really good. I've noticed that when you're running elite dungeons with necromancy, you do have good AoE, but you're always lacking a little bit of adrenaline to be able to use like the scythe on the next bit of mobs, and obviously you've got the 45-second cooldown on the Threads of Fate, so sometimes you're just kind of there like, I need to gain some adrenaline before I do the next clear, or I need to wait for threads to come off cooldown, something along these lines, right? Now, this is actually pretty damn useful. If you take a Ring of Death for the run bit of Elite Dungeons when you're killing off the trash mobs, you've got a lot more adrenaline, and it is actually really good at keeping that adrenaline up. Now, the reason being is the Ring of Death actually has a second passive other than when you die, you have the chance to teleport out, right? The second passive is that when you kill a target, there's a 50% chance, so 1 in 2 chance, of restoring the wearer's adrenaline, so you, by 1% for every 1500 of the target's max life points to a maximum of 5% adrenaline. So basically, whenever you kill something in Elite Dungeons, you have a 50% chance to restore between probably 3 and 5% adrenaline every time you kill something, which is really good because obviously there's a lot of stuff clumped up together. So when you do a clear, you end up refunding quite a decent amount of adrenaline. It's also worth mentioning that the Ring of Death is a pretty good ring for necromancy, to be honest, because in some places your accuracy just isn't quite 100%, and so you're losing out some damage. I like using the Ring of Death in Elite Dungeons. It's probably my go-to now because of that adrenaline change, and it's definitely something to keep in mind. Another thing though is it brings some adrenaline potions with you when you do the run, just in case you do need to pop like an adrenaline pot just to do one clear. Just drink the adrenaline potion, like use a regular one or use a super one or something. You don't need to use a renewal, but just drink that and then grab yourself the adrenaline that you need to do the clear. But the Ring of Death makes a big difference. If you're lacking adrenaline during dungeons, give it a try. You'll definitely notice a good difference. There you go, there's 5 more things that I've learned recently about DPS for necromancy and just quality of life things that you should be taking advantage of because they're pretty damn good. So before we do end the video, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has supported the channel with channel memberships and patron subs, and for anybody else who's interested, you can actually get some extra content over on Patreon, and I'm going to be starting to post more actual Patreon only content over there again now, and also you support the channel a ton while you do so it's appreciated an absolute ton. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you guys too, and I'll catch you all in the next one. If you have any more stuff for another video, like more tips and stuff, drop them in the comments, and yeah, see you later guys, bye.